Hello, hi. I'm Olivia and this is Profits and Wealth. Today I just wanted to talk about the energy crisis in Europe. My opinion about why there's an energy crisis, who's benefiting, and how do you follow the money. The whole purpose of when I started with this channel, it is always to focus on business news and economics. With the gas crisis in Europe, it's affecting ordinary people across the board. It's a crisis of proportions that I don't think we who are not living in Europe fully understand. But with everything that happens, like I always say, there is a cause and effect. And if you look closely at the numbers, if you follow the money will lead you to the numbers, and the numbers will tell the story. Russia, this video will focus on Russia, US, and Europe. Almost like a love triangle, but it's not a love triangle at all. And I also want to say this is not in any way to take away from the suffering of the people in Ukraine. Because at the end of the day, when there is a war, the people who suffer the most, it's ordinary people whose lives are lost, whose livelihoods are lost, where entire families are wiped out because of ego and greed. So I will just start off by asking the question about the natural gas, who's benefiting, and why was the European market important to the United States? Russia is the biggest, it was the biggest supplier of natural gas to Europe. These are the top 10 countries where Europe get their natural gas from. Russia, followed by Norway, Algeria, Netherlands, Qatar, United Kingdom, Denmark, Belgium, Libya, and then Nigeria. When you look at these countries, the country that has been given or supplied the most gas to Europe by far has been Russia. So much so that for years, Europe has been warned that Russia is providing too much gas. Now, when I say this, I'm talking about up until 2021, before the war in Ukraine started. The bulk of Europe's natural gas, it came from Russia. Depending on where you go and look for information, depending on where you do your research, some websites will say 40%, others 45%. But when you follow the numbers, it was roughly 2019, 2020. The Russian natural gas supply, it peaked to almost to 57%, almost 58%. So just think about it. If a whole entire region is dependent on one country for more than half of the natural gas. And just to explain, what is the purpose? Why does Europe need natural gas? Natural gas is a fossil energy source. Then from natural gas, the processed product is liquefied natural gas. And that is the product that is being used in households across Europe, an energy source. It is used for cooking, for heat. So that is just in a nutshell to explain the connection between the natural gas and the energy crisis in Europe. that is currently going on at the moment. So Russia is the biggest by far. They provided or they supplied the most natural gas to Europe up until 2021. The volume of the natural gas that Russia supplied, it increased from 2015. It increased from 124.3 billion cubic meters to 152.6 billion cubic meters. Just to give you an idea of the quantities I'm talking about here, 1 cubic meter is equal to 1,000 liters, or if you are in United States, 264.172 US gallons. I will repeat that. 1 cubic meter is equal to 1,000 liters, or 264.172 US gallons. I just apologize. I hope now that the sound has increased because I just realized that my mic has not been plugged in. So I hope the sound has improved now and you can hear me a little bit louder and a little bit clearer. I was just explaining what is 1 cubic meter. A cubic meter is the unit that is being used to measure natural gas. 1 cubic meter equals to 1,000 liters or 264.172 US gallons. Then to continue, to put it into perspective, this is the amount that Russia supplied, the amount of natural gas that Russia supplied to the European Union, up until 152.6 billion cubic meters. That is so much that I don't think that we can actually wrap our minds around how much gas Russia supplied to Europe. And it didn't end there. Russia went a step further, right? In 2017, they also started providing LNG, liquefied natural gas. Later in the show, I will explain again what happens for natural gas to become liquefied natural gas. So I've explained what is a cubic meter. So all of this gas, this billions of cubic meters of gas, how was it transported? How was the gas transported to Europe? Because that is an important question. The gas was transported to Europe via gas pipelines. If you look at this map, you will see that the gas pipelines, it has been marked in red. So the area in pink, that is Russia. The area where the arrow is shown to, that is Ukraine. So from 2009, Russia's natural gas was delivered to Europe through 12 pipelines. That was in 2009. 3 were direct pipelines to Finland, Estonia, and Latvia. 4 of the pipelines went through Belarus. 5 of those pipelines, it went through Ukraine to Slovakia, Romania, Hungary, and Poland. And then in 2011, an additional pipeline was added, the Nord Stream 1, that went directly from Russia, which is the pink area. It went directly from Russia to Germany. And 10 years later, in 2021, Nord Stream 2 was completed, that added another pipeline, another gas pipeline from Russia to Germany. So in total, there were 14 pipelines that supplied natural gas from Russia right to Europe. So like I've mentioned earlier, in 2017 then, Russia became one of the main liquefied natural gas suppliers to Europe, in addition to the pipeline supplies. So now, Russia had supplied natural gas, which was the raw material. And then also they went a step further and they supplied the LNG, which is the liquefied natural gas. Now the difference with the LNG, it could be transported. Whereas your LNG, you needed to lay the pipes for the for the natural gas, the raw natural gas. You needed pipelines to transport it from one country to another. Whereas with the LNG, you could transport it at maybe a lower cost. It was easier to transport. Let me just explain what I mean with that. The LNG was easier to transport, and also it was more of a finished product than the natural gas. So that is the background with the context to Ukraine, to Russia. And now I want to bring in the USA. The United States of America it is actually the largest producer of natural gas, followed by Russia, Iran, Qatar, Canada, China, Australia, Saudi Arabia, and Indonesia, and then lastly by Norway. These are your top 10 producers of natural gas globally. So already Russia had the European market. What markets did the United States have? Because these questions, it needs to be asked so that we can understand the context of what is happening today. 46% of the total US natural gas exports in 2021 were by pipeline. Of the 46%, 70% went to Mexico and 30% went to Canada. In terms of the pipeline, remember, this is raw gas. It's natural gas in its natural form. So United States of America, 46% of the total US natural gas, the exports, it was 46 of the exports of the total natural gas, it was 46%, and 70% went to Mexico and 30% went to Canada. So that leaves your liquefied natural gas. In 2021, a very interesting thing happened. Remember 2021? The Nord Stream 2 was completed. Another big thing also happened. The Nord Stream 2 was completed from Russia to Germany, the natural gas pipeline. Another important thing happened concerning gas as well. In November 2021, remember this is all before the war in Ukraine. In November 2021, when there was still no energy crisis in Europe, because the natural gas pipelines from Russia to Europe, it was operational. They were also providing Europe with your liquefied natural gas, your LNG. So Russia was providing the raw product as well as the refined or the processed product. In America, in November 2021, a US natural gas producer signed a 20-year contract with China's state-owned Sinopec to supply liquefied natural gas to China. What this did, China's imports of US natural gas will more than double US exports of liquefied natural gas to China and other countries. I will say it again. When this agreement was signed in November 2021 between US and China, and remember, this isn't between the US government, this is between a US LNG producer. That agreement, it will lead to China's imports from US to double, and not just to China, but to other Asian countries. Asian buyers were willing to pay higher prices than European countries. And when was this? In 2021. Before the war. Before Ukraine was invaded by Russia. So let's just, in a nutshell, I want to paint again the picture of what took place before Russia invaded Ukraine. In terms of the gas, the natural gas, Russia was the biggest supplier of natural gas to Europe. Even though there were other countries supplying Europe, but from 40% upwards of the natural gas in Europe was supplied by Russia. Then in 2017 as well, Russia then started supplying LNG gas. That was together with the natural gas pipelines. In 2021, Nord Stream 2, the natural gas pipeline was added that goes from Russia to Germany, because Germany is the biggest user in terms of Russia's natural gas. Most of the gas that Russia supplied, it went to Germany. Then China and an LNG, liquefied natural gas producer in US, they entered a 20-year contract so that the United States could supply liquefied natural gas to China. This is all before the war in Ukraine started. So now, America provided, the LNG producers in America provided, it was LNG and natural gas. So they had the Canadian market, they had the Mexican market, they had the American market, but because you will provide, gas in your own country, they then had the Asian market. The market they did not have was the European market. And why was that? Because the Europeans were not willing or prepared to pay the price that the American natural gas producers were asking. Another thing you have to consider, to transport LNG gas, it's a hell of an investment you have to make. To get from natural gas to LNG, it is a long process. First of all, you need the infrastructure. Secondly, you need the gas pipes. You need the facilities to change it from the natural gas up to LNG. Because I mean, natural gas, it cannot be loaded onto trucks or ships or whatever. It has to be transported via pipelines. So those pipelines must arrive at the facilities where it can be processed to become LNG. And this is highly specialized equipment that is needed. And that is an investment. So the purpose of business is to get a return on investment. So when you start building the infrastructure for your LNG gas, already you must have a market in mind. Already you must have factored in your price because you want to make a profit. Europe already was getting their gas at a price from Russia that suited both sides. Because at the end of the day, business, it's not about sentiment. It's not about likes and dislikes. It's about return on investment. It's about profits, and it's about who's benefiting. So America did not have the European market. So what changed? What happened? This is what happened. In 2022, the 24th of February 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. What happened was that the US and its LNG producers profit from the gas shortages in Europe and will further profit if Russian volumes are sanctioned. What is the first thing that happened after the war? Russia was sanctioned. And who was the most vocal about it? The American government was the most vocal about it. And yeah, these are the words of a European trader. The US and its LNG producers profit from the gas shortage in Europe and will further profit if Russian volumes are sanctioned. What happens when there's a crisis? What happens when there's a shortage? A shortage of something that is being used by the majority of people in a country. Prices spike. It increases. Volumes decrease. Prices increase. Who benefits? Yet it says clearly, the US and its LNG producers. Because now, because of the reduction of natural gas from Russia, as well as the reduction from LNG from Russia, there was a shortage in Europe. And then who came riding as knights in shining armor? America. Who was the one who drove sanctions against Russia? Americans. But who is paying the price right now for the gas shortage? Not the men in suits, not high-placed people, people like you and me, ordinary people. People who just want to live, want to go to work, come back, have a hot meal, have a hot bath or shower, get into bed and live their lives. They are now the one who has to pay the price of the sanctions against Russia. Who is benefiting? Because it's definitely not ordinary people. It's definitely not Europe. I want to go a little bit further to bring it home. In 2019, the Global Energy Monitor warned the United States. They warned, and this is research that has been done. In 2019, the Global Energy Monitor warned that up to $1.3 trillion US dollars in new LNG export and import infrastructure that was currently under development. This was in 2019. Keep the date in mind. That is currently under development is at a significant risk of becoming stranded. Why? Because there was a possibility of an oversupply of global gas, particularly where? In the United States and Canada. I will read this again because I want to, as I go on, you will understand why I need to read this twice. In 2019, 3 years before the war happened, the Global Energy Monitor warned that up to $1.2 trillion in new LNG export and import infrastructure that was under construction in 2019 will become stranded, and global gas, there was a possibility that it will be oversupplied if the United States and Canada play a bigger role. That was 2019. Look what happened in 2000, now 2022, 2023. US liquefied natural gas exporters are emerging as big winners of Europe's supply crisis. Remember 2019, there was a warning that LNG import and export infrastructure is going to be stranded. 2022. Let me just get this. European gas prices have hit all-time highs, just as exporters of LNG in the United States completed projects that had been under development for years to deliver abundant shale gas supplies to international markets. In 2019, there was a warning that researchers said, guys, hang on. There's a risk of oversupply of LNG in 2019. So these projects that you are busy building now, there's a huge risk that they will become stranded and useless and redundant because they won't be return on investment. There's already your risk of oversupply. 2019. 2023, this is now the story. European gas prices hit an all-time high because exporters of LNG were in the United States completed projects. The same projects that in 2019, they were underdeveloped. They were still in the process of being developed and they were warned, stop, slow down, there are too much gas. Now there's a shortage, there's a crisis, and suddenly these projects are completed because they have been under development for years to deliver abundant. Doesn't that support already what researchers were saying in 2019? Abundant shale gas. Now with the crisis in Europe, there's a market to supply to international markets. And who are those international markets? Europe. And it doesn't end there. The prices have hit an all-time high. US liquefied natural gas exporters are emerging as big winners of Europe's supply crisis as they export record volumes to Europe. This was last year, March, for the third consecutive month at prices that have rallied since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. With every war, wars don't just happen because I want to protect your human rights. It happens because someone benefits. Whether it's one country or another. But this is a good example of what this war is all about. And you know what the sad thing is? For huge profits and greed. And because I have an oversupply of something, let me see where I can go to get rid of my oversupply, but at the same time, so I can make money in the process. And to hell with all the lives that are lost, a country that's being destroyed, a president that's being used as a pawn, an entire region where people cannot live, an entire region where people have to practically sell their kidneys just to buy gas. A gas not too long ago that was available, that was affordable. That the cost of living was high, but you could afford to live. And who is at the heart of it? Because this is what bothered me. I've asked the question, why is the US so vocal about sanctions against Russia? This has nothing to do with human rights. This has nothing to do with the protection or the integrity of another country. This is all about keeping you and me distracted. So now we can attack each other about Russia that's invading Ukraine and Ukraine who's losing the battle. And this is, then we get swept up into the rhetoric and the nonsense and forgetting who is benefiting while people are dying, while families are being decimated, while a country is being destroyed, where the losses, it's so big that some people will never recoup or recover even in another lifetime. And all this for profits, for gain. But you know the thing with greed? Greed is something that we must study and we must understand it. Because a greedy person or a greedy country, with greed comes the absolute disregard for the consequences. I don't care what I have to destroy, as long as I get what I want. But the question is, when is it enough? When is it enough? How many more countries must be destroyed? How many more people must die? How much more suffering must happen before greed will stop? And it doesn't end there. Now, US again, it's central, even in South Africa. They are now central, accusing the South African government of selling weapons to Russia in support of the war against Ukraine. And because there's a lame duck president in South Africa who won't say screw you, this is a sovereign country and we will make decisions that we see fit. No stand is being taken. It's fluff and bluff. But who is central again? America. The United States of America. How many more countries do you want to cause the instability in? Libya? Iraq? Look what happened. Somalia. Look at the carnage. Look, the road to recovery. The neighboring country, Mozambique, also natural gas. And suddenly there's insurgents in Mozambique. Suddenly it becomes a fight about religion. You must really think that we are stupid. Really, really think that we have no brains. to finally be able to connect the dots and see what is at the heart of things. This is not about the goodwill of people. But you know what is the worst? Right now, Ukraine is bleeding. They are bleeding. Just so a few companies can line their pockets with money. So my question is, when will it end? And when will it be enough? Probably never. So we need to speak this truth. We need to interrogate, to ask, to debate, not with emotions, not with feelings and likes and dislikes, but we need to look at the facts. And like I've said, this research is free of charge for anyone who's willing to dig and just to keep on digging. And the more you dig, the more you'll surprise at what you will find. Let's begin to stand for truth. Let's stop acting like stupid, irresponsible, emotional, empty-headed people who lack the capacity to debate because it's the mighty USA or it's the mighty Russia or the mighty China. Let's interrogate and let's ask the right questions. For more on this videos, about this video, and for more on my opinion, because I will be going into much more detail about LNG gas and the roles of different countries as to the importance of gas and the role of gas, natural gas, for the future. Please like and subscribe. I thank you. My name is Olivia and this is Profits and Wealth.